Welcome back to Creatrix with Jade. Today we are diving into a very juicy and important topic that isn't talked about enough in the spiritual space, and that is how we can actually regulate our nervous systems to feel much more grounded and embodied and connected, even during the phase of a spiritual awakening, which can be something that if you are watching this and you're in one right now, or if you've been through a spiritual awakening before, you know how sticky, how challenging, and how confronting they can be. And so, in this video, we're going to talk about what a spiritual awakening first is, and then we'll dive into some tips and some tools that I have for you to really hold your nervous system in a more resilient way as you're moving through the changes of this awakening. So, a spiritual awakening, in its most essential form, explanation, is it is a change in awareness. It is a change in your consciousness, in your level of consciousness, and therefore a change in your frequency and in the structure of your energy body. So, first, let's talk about awareness, right? The first layer of what awakening is. When you are in the midst of a spiritual awakening, what is really happening is you are waking up to a lot of the untruths, the lies, the conditioning, the programs that have been running through your life, through your childhood, and through the systems and institutions and society that we live in, right? We all grow up with a certain set of beliefs and values that we are told are true, that we adopt and take as real. And when we move through a spiritual awakening, it is a disintegration of a lot, if not all, of those beliefs and stories and constructs, right? It is this awakening to the realization that so much of what we identify as real, as necessary, as important, really actually comes from our ego and actually isn't truth. And so, as we awaken to truth, as we become aware of what reality is actually made of, what is actually important to us, what our true soul values really are, what our soul desires actually are, what we actually want to have and do and be in this lifetime, not what all of the external constructs and noise tell us that we should be or have to be or must be, right? As that awareness grows, what this means is that we are shattering the whole architecture of what we thought was real. We are shattering all of the illusions, right? And this will change everything that you thought you knew as real. This will change everything that you thought you knew as true and everything that you were probably taught and told growing up. And our human, this is the thing about the cuteness of humans and our psychology. Our human loves to cling on to knowledge. We love to cling on to logic, onto control, onto labels, onto identities, onto forms and structures that give us a way of understanding things and feeling safe, right? This is what the nervous system's function actually is, right? So we're all really like just functioning through our nervous system. 95% of our day-to-day function is governed by the nervous system. Our subconscious mind, which is 95% of how we are actually like reacting and responding and initiating every single day, happens through the nervous system. And so your nervous system's job is to keep you protected and safe. That's all it wants to do, right? And how it knows to keep you safe in this human body, in this really beautiful, strong, yet also fragile human body in the universe and the world that we live in, how we have evolutionarily developed to protect ourselves through danger, through violence, through war, through a lot of the suffering and pain that can come with being human is we have this nervous system, right? And how your nervous system knows safety is to attach on to everything. Attach onto labels, attach onto constructs, attach onto identities, attach onto titles, accolades, jobs, people, relationships, you name it. Everything that we have around us in material form, we have an attachment to. And this is a very human thing about us that all of us all of us have, and all of us will always have. But the process of a spiritual awakening is a higher awareness. It's this lifting, a higher awareness of the fact that we do have these attachments and coming back into agency and choice and free will to how we choose to interact and respond to those attachments. Like realizing that, yes, we're humans, so we have attachments, but we don't have to be governed by them, right? But when you realize through a spiritual awakening that these attachments aren't actually real, right? They're these biological mechanisms and these defense mechanisms really that we have as a way to feel safe, but aren't actually the truth of our soul, aren't actually our energetic truth. Well, when we lose that way of safety, it is destabilizing, right? It is scary. It brings out the most visceral primal response in our nervous system, which is the fight or flight response, which is the visceral response that your nervous system knows to run from a tiger if you're attacked, right? To freeze and play dead if you're under attack, right? These are all nervous system mechanisms that we have. And so when we are terrified and destabilized because our soul is coming online and everything around us no longer seems to make sense, and we find ourselves in this place of trying to understand what life even means to us anymore and what reality actually is, it is the most destabilizing thing. It is a crumbling of everything you know, right? And so, of course, your nervous system is going to go into dysregulation, which is why this video is all about nervous system regulation, the importance of it, of coming back to the body, of bringing yourself back into homeostasis when you are moving through spiritual ascension, right? There is an interesting counter that happens between your intuition and your biology at this point, right? When you are going through an awakening and ascension, your intuition gets stronger, right? There is a sense of knowing that amplifies amidst and despite the uncertainty that your ego will feel and the fear of not knowing, the fear of change, all the change that's happening and the deconstruction that's happening. Your intuition is getting stronger. And at the same time, your biology is fighting back. Your biology is feeling dysregulated. And then there's also this interesting counter between your soul and your ego, right? Your soul that is coming online and your ego that wants to attach on and make sense of everything. But the truth about a spiritual awakening is that it isn't meant to make sense. And the spiritual awakening asks you and invites you into surrender. It asks and invites you into trusting the process, trusting the universe, trusting the path that you're on without control. Right? So the path of awakening is this very intrinsically activating experience for our bodies and for the primal human self that lives within us alongside our soul self. Right? So as we navigate through a spiritual awakening, it's important that we hold space for both, right? That we have compassion and we understand the biology that's happening, the physiological reaction that's coming up, and knowing how to ground ourselves, how to hold ourselves through it, as well as giving our soul the space and the breadth that it needs to go through this process of ascension and see and understand and feel what it's meant to feel, right? And hear, know, learn what it's meant to learn, know, and hear. Right? So, a real awakening is an ego death. It's a dark night of the soul. You may have heard that term before. And so, like I've said, right, energetically, what is happening is that all of these false structures that you thought were real are disintegrating, and you are finding yourself back in the void, right? Which is dark, which is uncertain, which is scary. And with that, you will also find during an awakening, emotions will be amplified. You will feel fear, right? The fear of being destabilized. You will feel probably a lot of grief, right? Grief and a lot of emotion, typically repressed or stored emotions that you never really gave yourself a chance to process. Those typically come up during an awakening when the structure that kind of kept it all bound up and safe, when that disintegrates during a spiritual awakening, the emotions also flow out, right? And with that, it's emotional, it's big. And our nervous systems are the system in us that actually helps you process these emotions, right? Emotions all run through the nervous system. And so, again, this is why regulating your nervous system is extremely important. It helps with the emotional overwhelm and the emotional processing that we really want to lean into actually during an awakening, because we can learn so much from our emotions. And in every single emotion, in every single piece of pain and just challenge that we experience during an awakening, there is gold there. There's a lesson there that your soul wants you to learn, right? So, energetically as well, I want to also talk about this. When we are going through an awakening, energy is moving through us in a new way, right? Our energy body is quite literally recalibrating and changing in frequency, right? We are essentially detaching ourselves from this attachment to density, to form. And as we are moving through awakening, your light body turns on. Your light body, your energy body becomes less dense. And what often happens with this is people will experience what we call ascension flu, which can often just actually come up as symptoms that are similar to like a cold or a flu. Headaches, dizziness, cramps, fatigue, nausea. This is energy that's moving through your body, and your body recalibrating to essentially a new system, a new wavelength. If you want to think about energy and frequency as quite literally like a radio dial, right? When you attune to higher levels of consciousness, higher frequencies, less dense frequencies, your body will also your body has to tune into that frequency. And with that, your system, your construction will change. Your architecture will change with that. So, as energy is moving through you in a different way, you might also experience Kundalini awakening, your intuitive voices, your intuitive gifts, like strengthening, right? Your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your clairsentience, your cognizance, right? All these different gifts that we all have access to spiritually, they might turn on, and you might start to notice that you are suddenly feeling other people's energy more. You're suddenly be able to attune to other people's thoughts. You're suddenly seeing auras or colors, and you're suddenly experiencing all of these divine synchronicities. It's because you are attuning to this new frequency and new energy is moving through you. Now, you might also find that you are suddenly just more sensitive to energy. Things that may have felt normal to you for a long time, computer screens, traffic, the environment that you live in, what was okay and normal for you, all of a sudden feels really overstimulating and feels like it's a lot, right? And this is all important because what this is doing is changing your somatic experience, your physiological experience. And if we aren't aware of it, if we're not regulating our nervous system and we're not aware of how our environment is affecting us, and we're not using our agency to adapt, to change, and to evolve, and to make ourselves comfortable and to give ourselves what we need through this process, the process of ascension and awakening is going to be a lot harder and more painful and more resistant, right? So, last thing I want to say before we dive into how you can regulate your nervous system during a spiritual awakening is I want to first say that the universe never delivers you anything that you're not meant to handle, that you're not meant to be able to handle. Right? So if you are moving through a spiritual awakening right now and it is feeling really dense, therefore you're watching this video and you're like, my nervous system feels really fried and I feel all over the place and I feel scattered and frenetic, know that you are meant to handle this and you are absolutely capable of holding this energy and letting your body ascend in the way that it needs to, letting your energy body recalibrate. You are meant to do this. And so this is a powerful portal that we don't want to miss. The more embodied and connected we can be with ourselves through the unsettling experience of an awakening, the I wouldn't say the higher we could go, but the more seamless the integration process will be for you, and the more seamless that coming back into reality will be for you. So, it is also possible to go through multiple awakenings. Let me just say this as well, right? I have just went through my second awakening. It was almost a year long, and it was a massive ego death that I didn't expect because I thought that I was done with spiritual awakening, my first one 5 years ago. It is possible, and it's actually likely for all of us who are on the spiritual path to go through multiple awakenings in our lifetime, right? And each awakening that you go through will crack open a new layer, a new dimension of the matrix that you have been living in. And it will bring you deeper, even deeper into your own knowing, your own soul's truth, and your purpose, your mission, your work in this lifetime. And wherever you are, at whatever stage, whatever number awakening that you're at, these tools of understanding and regulating your nervous system is going to be crucial at every single point. And I would say actually the higher we go with it, the more attuned we need to be with our physical body. So now let's dive into regulating your nervous system. I have some tips here that I have planned out for you. Number one, somatic meditation. This is not spiritual meditation, not transcendental meditation. We're not talking about meditation where you're connecting with your guides and your angels and your divine spirit team. These are all amazing, right? We want to continue to spiritually connect with our support team, with the divine, right? With those energies and entities. But as above, so below. And so, especially when we are connecting to higher realms, we have to be so intentional about how we are grounding down into the earth. And our bodies are made of earth. Our bodies are vessels of earth. They are our most material form, right? So as we connect spiritually, we need to be connecting with a deeper awareness and attunement to our somatic experience, our sensations, our feelings, our emotions, and the energy that is moving through us. So, what this really means is showing your body that you are safe. Somatic meditations are really incredible for regulating your nervous system and also just developing presence in the moment, right? If your nervous system is fried and dysregulated, you're not going to be in presence in the moment, right? To actually even connect with the divine, to connect spiritually, you actually have to be in presence, right? So again, as above, so below, right? Not spiritually bypassing, not as we're ascending, always trying to facilitate the ascension. Bringing ourselves back down into earth will actually open up your channel to be able to connect in a deeper way. Connect with source, connect with higher consciousness, spirit in a deeper way. Right? So some examples of this: tapping, right? As you're meditating, tapping. You can do EFT tapping, of course, but I actually just love tapping different spots over my body. As I breathe, as I just close down my eyes, I get still, I come inward, I tap, I massage my body, I hold myself, and I just let myself feel my vessel. Something else that I love is a body awareness scan, right? Quite simply, scanning your body and its sensations from the crown of your head all the way to the tips of your toes, and being very intentional and really just attuning to the different sensations that you feel in every crevice of your body. This is an incredible way to downregulate your nervous system if you are really up and really feeling frenetic and scattered, and like the energy is just really up here. This will really, really support you and will bring you back into presence and awareness as well. And with somatic meditation, really being consistent with your practice, right? Nervous system regulation requires, in the phrase itself, right? We're talking about regulation. We're talking about it needs to be regulated. You need to have a consistent daily practice where you are telling your body, where you are telling your nervous system, you can land, you are safe, you are okay, I got you. And your body, your nervous system needs to hear that every single day, especially when you are going through a period where it feels like the energy is really fast moving up. Even when I'm not in the process, in the path of, you know, being thick in a deep spiritual awakening, I am still intentionally connecting with my nervous system and regulating my nervous system every single day through meditation, through somatic meditation. I have a daily morning practice that I do. And so I recommend that you form one for yourself, and it makes a huge difference. Number 2, somatic exercises. Vocal toning, breath work, shaking, TRE, right? There are all kinds of somatic release and somatic exercises that I already gave you some examples of. Tapping is one of them. But yeah, somatic exercises are very crucial when it comes to, throughout your day, reminding your body that you are here, reminding your nervous system that you are present, right? So you can also check out the other videos that I have on my channel, where I share lots of different somatic artistry and somatic exercises and practices that I use in my own space and with my clients. Number 3, get outside and connect with nature. This is the cheapest, most accessible, easiest way to regulate the nervous system that we forget often because we're so hunched over a computer and our phones. We don't realize how vital and how natural it is to connect our bodies to nature. Like I said, our bodies are made of earth. When we can bring our bodies back into the frequency of earth, we are grounded. Quite literally, earth brings us back into ground. Right? So however you feel most connected to nature, I recommend you do that. Whether it's gardening, whether it's going out to a forest and taking a mindful walk, whether it's going to your park, if that's the thing that's most accessible to you, whether it's tree bathing, whether it's going out to the lake, whether it's to the beach, the ocean, whether it's getting your feet in your backyard, I have a little patio here, which I'm pointing to. However, you need to get into nature and be present there, experience, breathe, feel, connect with the frequency and the abundance and the holding of Mother Earth. This is going to regulate your nervous system in the most powerful way. Number 4, stop consuming so much stimulation. When you're moving through an awakening, we already touched on this, there is a lot of energy that is naturally already downloading through you. And you do not need to be downloading as much noise from your external environment, right? The whole process of an awakening is a very deep internal experience. It's a deep unraveling. And so we actually want to honor this process of this internal process. And we want to give ourselves the space and time and silence and breath to really be in our own process, right? To feel what we need to feel without distraction, to experience, to see, to sit with, to cry, to grieve in the way that we need to without being pulled out by all of these other things. And of course, all of us have responsibilities. All of us have, some form of work obligations that we have to tend to. It's not like we can just drop everything when we're going through an awakening, but it's having grace and having gentleness with yourself as you're moving through this period, understanding that you might not want to socialize as much, right? That might take too much out of your energy, right? What does your nervous system need? What does your body need to feel held in during this process? Offer yourself that, right? Whether it's solo time, whether it's time spent with people in your life who can hold you in softness, whether it's taking digital detoxes and really taking time away, maybe from your work for a little bit, taking a vacation if you can, really just minimizing the external noise, minimizing your consumption of social media and of the news and of anything that activates you even more, activates your nervous system into a fight or flight even more. Now, number 5, co-regulation. Find community. If you are feeling called to connect and to feel held by people, with people during your awakening, which I would say all of us deep down do, because all of us are humans, are social creatures, and we are biologically wired to need human connection. Even when we're going through an awakening where it feels like it's a solo internal process, it is important that we surround ourselves with people who can hold us and who can see us and who can respect our process, or better yet, understand, and who can empathize and who can maybe even guide us through it. If you don't feel like you have support systems in your life where you feel seen and heard and understood through this journey of awakening, which again can feel very out of the matrix and very out of your typical reality. And so you might find that, the people in your life, your family, your friends that you've had for a long time, they don't understand what you're going through because maybe they're still in the illusion, they're still in the matrix, they haven't yet awakened. That's okay, right? Don't force it on them. Share, if you can, vulnerably share your experience with them if you feel safe to. And find yourself, if you can, spaces in your community, local to you, in person or virtually on Instagram, on socials. I've created the Creatrix Collective, right? A sisterhood space for spiritual creatives, for spiritual women who are really going through next levels of awakening and who are bringing higher consciousness to earth. I've created a space literally specifically for this reason, because this path, we need to be connected with each other on this path. So with that said, right, if you are moving through an awakening and you want to feel connected to women, incredible women, if you are a woman identifying and you want to connect with others who are on this path and who can maybe guide you and see you and mentor you on this path, then I highly recommend actually checking out the Creatrix Collective, sending in your application. If you're a beautiful fit, we'd love to have you inside and be a part of our community. And we share conversations, we share connection, we share resources with each other, and we get together live every week. We have a platform on Discord where um, we do all kinds of incredible creative things that are spiritually focused, and having spaces where we can feel held and fall back on and that feel like a second home to us is something that I didn't really have when I was on my first spiritual awakening journey. And it is something that has made a world of a difference for myself this time around, as well as for my clients. And through my work with them, I've seen how important co-regulation really is. So, the last tip that I have for you is to create from the space of awakening. When it's happening, when the awakening is happening, there is a lot that you're going to feel like you don't know, right? The crumbling, the disintegration. There is a lot that you're going to probably feel really unclear and unsettled about. And we can be dropped into this place of the void, and it's scary. And often, for many of us, our natural instinct will be to contract, right? The nervous system contracts when we're scared. We might isolate, we might want to hermit, right? We might want to just internalize everything as well. And as important as co-regulation is, right, like connection with other people, so is expression, your self-expression during periods of awakening and darkness and transition, right? When you create, when you express from a place of raw truth, exactly as you are, however you are, going through what you're going through, writing poetry, making art, dancing for yourself, writing prose, making music, singing, whatever art form calls to you, right? However you enjoy creation and you want to self-express. And you might find actually during a spiritual awakening that you will find yourself wanting to experiment with different creative forms. You might find that energy wants to move naturally. And so I'll give you an example. When I went through my first spiritual awakening, I found myself writing poetry, like flooded with emotions that just I knew needed to come through. Poetry specifically, short poetry. I was never a poet. I was never like a writer in that sense. And it came through me like water when I was moving through my awakening. And creation is one of the most healing salves when it comes to being in this process of like, there is so much energy that's being internalized, right? When we create, we alchemize it. When we create, we bring what is formless. We bring this energy that we can't seem to like understand, or our minds can't seem to grasp onto. We let the mind go and we let it move through our hands. We let it move through our voices, our throats. We let it move through our bodies. And there is a release that happens. There is a catharsis that happens. There is an alchemy, a deep alchemy that happens right there, right? It moves energy in a very gentle, regulated way. My favorite way, of course, to really practice creative expression is through somatic artistry, embodied creation. It's important to be connected with your energy, deeply connected with your body as you're creating, because only then will energy actually move out through you as alchemy, right? If you're just creating, but you're disconnected or disembodied from yourself, your feelings, your emotion, from the textures and the colors of it, well, you're not going to be actually tapping into the truth and the energy that wants to move. Creation also brings us back to our power of creation as humans, as beings, right? You as a spiritual being in a human form, You are here to create life. You are here to create on this planet. That's what we're all put on this planet to do with our beautiful hands and our mouths and our voices. We are here to create. We serve by creation, right? And so when we are creating, it is an energy that is so actually empowering, right? Despite feeling unstable, destabilized during an awakening, when we are in the practice of creating, even if we're creating art that you might not want to show to the rest of the world, it doesn't matter, right? When we are in the act of creating, we are coming back into life force. We're coming back into our innate capacity. We're coming back into actually like source. We're coming back into our source energy. We're connecting with the divine, right? So it is this practice, creation is this practice that connects us with our bodies when we're doing it in an embodied way through somatic artistry. We're connecting with our physical vessel, as well as connecting with what source, what, the awakening actually wants to deliver through us. It's so powerful, right? And creation, creativity, art making is so deeply regulating for your nervous system. It's expansive in the fact that it's empowering, and it is deeply regulating and grounding to be making art from a place of your body. If you are moving through a spiritual awakening right now, I hope these tools land with you and serve you so deeply. And if you are really moving through it, I really recommend grabbing your journal and writing out a few of the tools that landed with you the most, or even a few of the perspectives that really resonated with you and made you feel held and seen in your journey, in your path right now. What do you need? What does your body need? What does your soul need to feel supported, to feel held, to feel regulated through this beautiful season that you're in? And can you offer yourself that? Can you be generous with yourself enough to offer yourself whatever it is that your nervous system needs? So, with that, thank you for tuning in to Creatrix with Jade, this video. I hope that this was so supportive. If you have been loving the videos on the channel, if you loved this conversation, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Share this beautiful conversation that we just had with your loved ones, with your friends, with anyone you know who might be moving through an awakening. What a portal you're in.